welcome to those of you watching Tigrai TV on satellite television, as well as on our social media platforms, Facebook and YouTube. I'm Sablor Lama, and I'm here with the English news for the hour. Moving on to the first news, earlier today, the government of Tigray issued a statement marking the 31st anniversary of Eritrea's independence. The statement congratulated the people of Eritrea on their hard-won liberation, earned through the sacrifice of thousands of its young women and men. The statement called the involvement of the Eritrean regime in the ongoing genocide in Tigray tragic, especially in light of the two peoples' joint resistance against fascism that was essential to Eritrea's independence. The government thanked opposition party leaders across the world, scholars and media outlets such as As-Sana and other activists that have taken a clear stand against the genocide on Tigrayans and have been advocating on behalf of the people of Tigray. The government called on all opposition parties to continue to fight for justice and equality to bring about the end of Isaiah's regime that has forced hundreds of thousands to flee the nation due to its brutal nature. Time magazine named Abiy Ahmed as one of the most influential people on the planet for his destructive role in Ethiopia's war on Tigray. The Times highlighted atrocities committed by his forces in Tigray, including the ethnic cleansing campaign in western Tigray, multiple massacres, and the use of food as a weapon of war. Times also highlighted Abiy Ahmed's continued blockade on aid, especially on humanitarian truce that was expected to ensure the delivery of much-needed aid into Tigray, and said the humanitarian truce was largely a tactical rather than a humanitarian endeavor. The magazine also noted the Prime Minister's use of ethnic slurs, referring to Tigrayans as weeds, marking a rise in hate speech against Tigrayans in mainstream outlets. Leading African civil society group, including the Kampala-based Atrocities Watch Africa, to plead with the United Nations to take decisive action to end the ongoing genocide in Tigray. The head for the Bureau of Peace and Security in the Amhara region has announced that it has arrested over 4,500 people in relation to the Ethiopian government's ongoing law enforcement operation in the region. These arrests have taken place within just 1 week and are apparently intended to target armed groups that are taking part in destabilization of the Amhara region. The Ethiopian government had so far been empowering armed groups such as the Fano that have taken part in the organized conflict on this side of the Ethiopian government in the war on Tigray. The Ethiopian government had taken part in the arming of such groups in the region that had forcibly displaced thousands of Tigrayans and led the ethnic cleansing campaign in western Tigray. The American government issued a statement earlier today stating concerns on the crackdown and asked that the Ethiopian government to refrain from arbitrarily detaining civilians. One of the most horrific features of the repressive Eritrean state today is the forced and indefinite conscription of youth in Sawa, a military camp located in an isolated location in a region of Gashbarka bordering Sudan. Sawa is quite literally turned into a living hell for many Eritrean youth, being exploited and harassed by authorities that exercise unchecked authority. Sexual exploitation and female recruits is common, and those that refuse force harsh punishment by their superiors. Our reporter Sarun Tsagai looks at the devastating impact of the indefinite national service in Eritrea.
It's been more than 30 years since Eritrea gained its independence from Ethiopia to become one of the most isolated and repressive nations in the world. The nation is known for forced detention and torture, media suppression, forced disappearance, and most of all, forced and indefinite conscription of its youth. When the program started in 1994, conscripts were military trained but then demobilized after 18 months. However, in 1999, following the Eritrean government's invasion of Tigray followed by a 2-year-long war with Ethiopia, former fighters were forcibly conscripted. Later, after the end of the war in 2001, the Eritrean regime would introduce Warsai Kaalo development campaign and declared that all high school students would complete their education in Warsai Kaalo Secondary and Vocational Training Center in Sawa Military Training Camp, located in an isolated location in the region of Gashbarka, bordering Sudan. Warsai Kaalo development campaign also made national services an indefinite way of life in Eritrea. Eritrean youths were destined to live a life of indefinite military service without any pay or benefits. More so, Sawa military training camp would literally turn into a living nightmare for many Eritrean youth that were exploited and harassed by authorities that exercise unchecked authority. Sexual exploitation of female recruits is common, and those that refuse face harsh punishment by their superiors.
They took us to Sawa. But after 2 days in Sawa, they were gathering up women from everywhere. They took us to farms. So I went to 3 or 4 different farms just working the fields. We would plant, weed, do a bit of everything. And throughout our work, our guards would make deals with other generals who had farms nearby, so they would take us there, do the work, and take the money, I guess. Throughout our stay in these different farms, there were many women who were either threatened or were asked for sexual favors in exchange for cell phones, a phone call, in exchange for water, in exchange for pads, menstrual pads, for anything. Some were desperate. All were desperate.
Indefinite services in Eritrea has led to the massive exodus of Eritrean youth, with the nation producing the second highest number of refugees to Europe next to only Syria, a country with a population of 18 million and embroiled in one of the most deadly conflicts in the recent memory.
They forced us to discontinue our education and pulled us into national service. They told us it was our national obligation. We were made part of the military and turned into slaves. We have to do everything they tell us. At a certain point, it becomes unbearable for most of the recruiters and they flee Eritrea.
Many of these recruits face severe consequences if they're caught attempting to flee Eritrea or evade national service. Some are put in detention camps, many more are put in containers in the burning heat, tortured and killed.
ካብዚ ተሃድም ብጣዕሚ ከቢድ ጎልጎሊ መካይና ኣለዋ ካልኦት ሰራዊት ኣለዉ ብጥኢት እውን ሾት ዝገብሩኻ ማለት እዩ ኣብዚ ሕጂ ክንሪኦ ከለና እዚ ሰብ እዚ ክትሃድም ሓስብካ ተባሂሉ ማለት እዩ ተኣሲሩ ዘሎ እንታይ እዩ ልዕሊ 10 ሰብ ማለት እዩ ኣድማ ጌርኩም ተሃድሙ ሓሲብኩም ዝብል ማለት እዩ ካብ ውሽጢ ኣለዉ ናቶም ተሓበርቲ ሪፖርተር ይገብፅሑ ማለት እዩ ዝለኣኹ ናቶም ክስታይ ማለት እዩ ጥርጣረ ወይ ሃድሙ ሓሲብኩም ተባሂሉ ኣብዚ ተኣሲሩ መጀመርታ ሃይማኖም ብጣዕሚ ብዝስካሕካ ሕጋዊ ማለት እዩ ይህሮሚ እሰሩ ክሳብ ናይ ኤሌክትሪክ ምፅላው ዘለኻሉ ማለት እዩ
An investigative report by the Human Rights Watch published in 2019 found that more than 500,000 people fled Eritrea to evade indefinite national service. Other reports indicate that an estimated 12% of the country's population lives abroad. Isaias Afwerki, the nation's only president so far, unable to deny the high number of citizens seeking refuge from his regime, and in true Trump fashion would claim that his country could simply do without them.
It's wrong to think that this country is missing out because these people have left. They cannot in any way affect our work. Some may think they've weakened us, but really, having people like that on your team is burdensome.
We need to know, has it now definitely stopped the indefinite usage of people in national service?
There has never been indefinite usage of people in national service.
The UN says completely contrary.
Well, you just brought the UN report on your clip that I saw. The UN report, if you ask people who live in Eritrea, including European Union ambassadors, will tell you that this is a distorted picture of the reality.
The start of the peace process between Ethiopia and Eritrea had been a source of optimism among Eritreans that had hoped it would result in an end to indefinite national service in the country and the start of the more democratic chapter of their nation. The result would, however, be to the contrary. Just months into the peace process, the Eritrean government would once again close its borders with Tigray, continue indefinite services, and start a deadly war that would cost thousands of Eritreans their lives and further disgrace Eritrea as not only a repressive nation, but a genocidal one as well.
Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus has been confirmed for his second term as Director General of the World Health Organization. Dr. Tedros has served as a Director General for the Health Organization since 2017, the first African to play this role. Dr. Tedros Adhanom, one of the longest serving in the heads for Tigray's Bureau of Health and is known for his implementation of the health extension program that was later duplicated in developing countries across the world. Dr. Tedros has served as the World Health Organization during the Ebola outbreak in West Africa, but leaves no doubt in mind that the COVID-19 pandemic will be the most memorable in the Director General's tenure. Our reporter Salon Tsagay looks back at long and successful career of Dr. Tedros.
Earlier today, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, the first African to be elected as the Director General of the World Health Organization, the leading public health agency in the world, was once again confirmed for a second term in his position. Dr. Tedros was born in Asmara, Eritrea, on March 3 of 1965. He received his bachelor's degree in biology from the University of Asmara in 1986. He served briefly as a junior public health expert for Ethiopia's Ministry of Health before earning his master's degree in immunology of infectious diseases from the University of London in 1992, and his doctorate of philosophy in community health at the University of Nottingham in 2002. Following his studies, he came back to Ethiopia to support the healthcare system. He first started working as a field-level malariologist and would later become the head of Tigray's Bureau of Health, serving between 2002 up to 2005. Dr. Tedros Adhanom is one of the longest-serving heads for Tigray's Bureau of Health, overseeing the development of the health extension program that was later duplicated in developing countries across the world. As Ministry of Health between 2005 up to 2012, he built a community health system that became envy of Africa. He led comprehensive reform of the country's health system, built on the foundation of universal health coverage and provision of service to all, even in remote areas. Under his leadership, he developed innovative health financing mechanisms, expanding its health infrastructure and its health workforce. Major content of his reform was the creation of primary healthcare extension program that deployed more than 35,000 female health workers throughout the country. He created thousands of new health posts with nearly a tenfold increase in medical students enrollees, reversing one of the most severe health worker shortages in the world.
Ethiopia's added 35,000 new health workers, and they're all over the country available to help out with basic health needs. And it's making a big difference in helping mothers do the right things with newborns, helping with infectious disease and sanitation. It's a system that they keep trying to improve because they're very serious about having Ethiopia be a healthier place.
As Ministry of Foreign Affairs between 2012 and 2016, he played an instrumental role in drafting part of the Addis Ababa Action Agenda, a framework for advancing Africa's economic, social, and political progress. He also played a huge role in coordinating a response to the 2013 up to 2016 Ebola outbreak in Western Africa. Dr. Tedros Adhanom took office as the Director General of the World Health Organization in June 1, 2017, as the first African to play this role. In his first years at WHO, he demonstrated an ability to persuade authoritarian governments to share information on outbreaks, helping advance international public health relations. Tedros Adhanom has served during the Ebola outbreaks, but leaves no doubt in mind that COVID-19 pandemic will be the most memorable in the Director General's tenure. Dr. Tedros has on multiple occasions voiced his concern regarding atrocities being committed in Tigray, including denial of basic services and the blockade of humanitarian aid, including medical supplies.
A week has passed since the truce was announced, but no food has been allowed into Tigray yet. Every hour makes a difference when people are starving to death. No food has reached Tigray since mid-December, and almost no fuel has been delivered since August of last year. The siege of 6 million people in Tigray by Eritrean and Ethiopian forces for more than 500 days is one of the longest in modern history.
The Ethiopian government has so far chosen not to endorse his candidacy and has repeatedly scrutinized him and has on multiple occasions attempted to hinder his re-election. The 57-year-old will serve his second term as chief of the health organization after being proposed as the sole candidate by 28 countries, including France and Germany, and with the endorsement of the African Union.
Since the start of the deadly siege on Tigray in July of 2021, the entry of essential items like food aid and medication has been blocked by the Ethiopian government, and millions of people are put in danger, especially children. We visited an IDP center in Aksum and spoke with 2 children who were separated from their parents due to the atrocities they've seen in their area in Maikadra. Kabrom Debraham.
Dejan and Daniel are both children who were forced to abandon their home in the town of Maikadra in western Tigray and came to Aksum to save their lives due to the atrocious conflict that was going on. The children explained that they were separated from their parents and came to the IDP center all by themselves because of the atrocities that have been committed in their area.
The soldiers were saying that the people must be slaughtered, including the pregnant mothers, because their infants will grow up and become junta to kill us. My mother has gone to Sudan. I fled as soon as I realized that many atrocities were being committed by Amhara vigilante group in our area. Flocks of people were running away as many were being slaughtered by knives and machetes, and I ran with them. I saw numerous dead bodies and also people who were dying.
I saw many people dead, some of them slaughtered and others shot dead. We escaped and came here along with our neighbors.
The children said it has been long since they have joined the IDP center, but nobody is reaching out for them, except the support they are getting from the residents of Aksum. In effect, they are exposed to hunger and related problems.
Sometimes the residents of the city give us injera. International organizations haven't helped us anything since last August.
Nothing is being provided to us for more than 6 months now.
Kasai Walda Gabriel, a coordinator at Aksum IDP camp, said that IDPs, especially children, are in dire situation due to lack of food and medication as the siege goes on.
As the siege gets tightened, there isn't much food aid. By the time the Ethiopian forces occupied the Tigray region, they were only imprisoning many and committing several atrocities on its people. Since the start of the siege, we haven't been able to get any food aid. We're sheltering 27 children whose parents were either killed or fled to Sudan. There are also pregnant women and lactating mothers. All these people, as you can see, haven't got any food aid. Nothing is being provided to them.
And that wraps up today's news. Thank you for tuning in.